I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Graham Noble, Joe Schaefer, Jim Fight, and Dave Patterson. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. Hey, America! A big chill is heading our way, at least according to the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. The organization has issued a warning that finds parts of the U.S. are again at an elevated risk to meet demands this winter. Cold snaps will cause extreme levels of electricity usage that may not be available, resulting in rolling blackouts. Not so great news if you live anywhere that's a little chilly. Could this be a result of Biden administration energy policies and its war on gas? Our panel's here to discuss. You know, when Biden promised a long, cold, dark winter, who knew he could deliver? Joe, first off, will this realistically happen? And second, can and could Biden fix it?
I'm tempted to say this is all part of the long-range plan. If you recall, when he ran for president, he gave one of the darkest, most dystopian landscape type speeches in accepting the Democratic nomination in 2020. And it's just been dark skies ever since. And you are tempted to believe it's intentional. There's always a crisis. There's always something going on. And there's always some existential threat facing the American people. For some reason, it appears that they want it to be this way. Maybe it's just me. I'm a little worn out here down in Florida. Every time there's a wind over the ocean, I got to get ready for a hurricane. But it just seems like it's always happening in America. There's always a crisis. We're always in that mode, that fight or flight mode. They want us to be in that mode. I don't think it's out of line to say that. So, okay, it's cold in the winter. Can we get through? Can we handle that like adults? Can we have people who know how to take care of the situation? We can turn our heat on. It can be affordable. No, it has to be a crisis. Everything has to be a crisis. And I can't help thinking it's intentional. And so, yes, I do think that there is going to be a problem with the grid. I think there is going to be, you're going to have those situations that happened in Texas a few years ago where people are freezing and they don't have heat. And, I really do believe they want it to be this way. And you can all call me a crazy conspiracy theorist right now, but that really is the way I've seen it after enduring what is it, almost 3-4
Hey,
years
those
of Joe
windmills,
Biden.
those windmills did freeze up, so there's that. I mean, you can't be too much of a conspiracy theorist. You know, you make a good point. If they want everything to be gloomy and we're this close to an election year and we're almost to the beginning of the primary season, Graham, how will this affect stalwart liberal voters? I mean, do they want this?
I well, I won't use the phrase stalwart liberal voters because personally, I have nothing against stalwart liberals if they're real liberals, but your average Democrat voter, and particularly the progressives, they would rather freeze to death than have Trump back in the White House. So I don't think it's going to make any difference to them. Plus the fact that Joe Biden will simply say, well, this is actually all Trump's fault. He caused this problem. And now, unfortunately, I just inherited it. Nothing I can do about it. And a great many Democrats, not all of them, but a great many Democrats will simply just accept that and say, okay, fair enough. Yeah, Trump's fault. Sounds about right. So, how much difference it will make? I don't think it'll make a lot of difference. I think obviously, the people in the big cities are going to suffer the worst, particularly in places like California. There's probably going to be rolling blackouts in those big metropolitan areas. I think where some of us live, in the smaller places around the country, probably won't be affected too much. But bottom line, no, I don't think it's going to make really much of a difference at all to how the election pans out.
You know what, Dave? I want to go back to Joe here for a second. And he said this is just going to happen. And if that's a political power play, that's pretty rude. But are we saying that the power grid is ill-equipped to handle winter, or are we just gonna shut it down? I mean, winter happens every year. How do we not know it's coming?
I know, surprise, surprise. It's December, February, and oh my gosh, it's cold. But I think that some of the experts are perhaps right in isolated places where the electricity capacity of the U.S. So, I mean, the gloom and doomers say that 2/3 of North America could face power shortages, and but I don't think it will be obviously that extensive. Contrary to climate change enthusiasts, the climate for winter has been pretty much the same year over year. And, yeah, in any case, regions of the US where power is generated by nuclear or fossil fuels of some kind, they'll weather this winter just fine, I think. And the real problem has been one of Biden's making, and that is that he has neglected the natural gas infrastructure. There's obviously not, he's not interested in that. And so if anything untoward happens in terms of power grids, and it's going to be a consequence of having to improve the natural gas infrastructure, the pipelines, and so forth. And but I guess my assessment will be that it won't be appreciably worse than last year, and there won't be any large power outages, and things will be pretty much as they have been.
Well, all of us yahoos in the Midwest or in the middle of nowhere, we have full propane tanks that are on the ready to go, and we have wall heat, and all you have to do is hit a button. We don't need electricity. We can stay warm. Jim, how do you take a group of people that say we've got to electrify everything. Everything's got to be electric. We've got to go get rid of fossil fuels, and we got to do electric cars and electric charging and all this stuff. And then they don't have the power grid to charge the cars or keep the heat on. I mean, how do you reconcile that strategy?
Well, Sarah, I don't reconcile it. I think the bigger question is how do they reconcile it? Look, I'll first off, I'm going to use Joe gave permission to call him a crazy conspiracy theorist, so thank you very much, sir. I'm going to use that. We've got the crazy conspiracy theorists down in Florida. I'm in Arkansas. Graham, I think you're in Mississippi. There's three of us on the panel in the what I call the sweltering South. Every winter, there's power grid issues somewhere in the country. Well, guess what? Every summer, when it gets hot, there's power grid issues in this country. It's every year. We know for a fact that the American energy infrastructure cannot handle any more of a load than we're already giving it. But now we're going to say, oh, well, we've got to get rid of gas or fossil fuels in general when it comes to heating, cooking, and driving. That doesn't work. It's almost, I'd never thought about it before the self-declared crazy conspiracy theorist. I'm never going to let you live that one down, Joe. Before you said it.
Can we just use the initials?
Yeah, well, anyways.
CCT. The CCT on the panel.
You know that over the last few years, we've always seen how many crazy conspiracies have actually turned out to
come true. I just thought I was about to get it.
Just really quick,
I'm kind of poking fun at Joe a little bit, but
it's
but no, I mean I never thought about it before, but the man makes a good point. It almost does kind of make you think, hey, is this intentional?
It's inescapable to me that they always want us thinking that the sky is about to fall. They want us in that mode. And to me, I feel like that's intentional. That is a control apparatus. They want
it applies everywhere else too, right?
Okay, well, you did hear the new narrative they're pushing now that Education Secretary Cardona said, we're from the government. We're here to help. That's what Ronald Reagan said. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? How is that even?
Well, you're talking about misquoting
that's
somebody.
The new thing. That's going to be a new mantra now.
Yeah.
I think what we're looking at is von Munchausen by proxy in the political world, where they create a problem only so they can swoop in and solve it. Unfortunately, they need to be a little bit more capable to solve things than they have been. We're really looking at a kakistocracy here, aren't we? Where people have been put in positions because they're so inept and lame.
Well, what's the old saying about giving up liberty for the illusion of security? I mean, for the government to have complete control willingly handed to them, they've got to convince the people they can't do it without them.
Well, they do like to instill fear. I mean, according to CCT, Joe, it's all a big conspiracy.
Well, we can connect what Dave said to what Joe said, because basically that's what they do. They actually create the problem, and then rather than there's no swooping going on. They don't solve that problem. They leave it because these perpetual crises, as Joe intimated, these perpetual crises, these perpetual problems, that gives them something to always say, well, we're working hard to solve this problem, but they never actually solve the problem, because that way, when the next election cycle comes around, they can once again say, we're working hard to solve this problem. It's like, oh, hold on a minute, you told us that 3 years ago. What's going on?
Absolutely. The problem is much more valuable to them than the solution ever would be.
And that's the same with gun violence, crime, drugs, you name it. Every one of these problems, they've never solved any one of them, because they would rather have the issue to talk about than to actually fix it.
And if it doesn't fixing it make people happy? I mean, during COVID, they just said, hey, you're going to lose your job, but don't worry, we'll send you a stipend, and then we'll just keep you on that stipend, and then nobody's going to go back to work until all of the government funding runs out and your benefits run out and all of that. And people did that. Like it was, well, my government's going to take care of me. I was never taught to let the government take care of me. And I see this happening in this administration particularly. So that would be my take, that Joe, the conspiracy guy, is right, that they just want people to live this way.
Not all conspiracy theories are false, right?
No.
Well, we've been proving them pretty good.
Well, and they just always assume, very simply, they always assume that the more miserable, the more financially strapped, the more insecure people feel, both physically and financially, and every way, that they assume the more people are in that state, the more they will look to the government to solve their problems.
One thing that maybe would be a good idea to point out for all these people that are delusionally thinking that if we go to all electric, that's just going to save the environment. Never mind what the grid can handle. Let's forget that for a minute. According to this was from an October 2023 report. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, 60% of the U.S. power grid is run by fossil fuels, whether we're talking coal or natural gas. So, I mean, whether you're pumping it in your car or just, flipping a switch on the wall, fossil fuels are fossil fuels.
Well, I think that's what makes the whole idea of getting rid of fossil fuels so you can have an impact on climate change so delusional. One of our reports that we've had printed says that when you get down to it and cut all of the chaff away, that in an electric car, it is the equivalent of $17 a gallon, as opposed to being in a gas-powered car. So it's to your point, Jim. I think that it's all madness, and we're both the dupes and the victims.
Oh, let's face it, we're guinea pigs.
Well, and also the other issue is what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, because the grid simply can't handle the demand, we are going to have to build thousands and thousands more wind turbines. We're going to have to erect thousands and thousands more solar panels, and they want us to get to the point where if you are on the coast anywhere, you look out over the water, all you're going to see is wind turbines for miles and miles. And when you're driving across America, all you're going to see is banks and banks and banks of solar panels for miles and miles. I mean, we're going to end up living in some kind of, horrible artificial kind of landscape. There's no empty land or empty water anymore, because all of it is being, occupied to try to generate enough electricity to meet our demands.
Yeah. Well, one wonders if the heating of the White House will be affected. Or if this is just a regular American problem that Joe Biden can't seem to solve. Stay warm out there and look to Liberty Nation to keep you informed. Thanks, panel. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. And remember to hit libertynation.com for all the latest news. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today for Free Thinking, Free Speech, libertynation.com.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. We believe in free thinking and free speech. We are libertynation.com.